Everyone knows Charon, the somber old man in his weathered skiff, ferrying souls across the river Styx. But what if nearly everything you know about this river and his job is a myth? Charon's true river is something else entirely. In this video, we'll delve into the true origins of Charon, son of night and darkness, and uncover the deadly secret of the coin, without which a soul is doomed to wander for eternity. We'll discover how the greatest heroes of antiquity tried to bend his rules and what it cost them, and we'll understand why Charon is not just a ferryman, but an indispensable guardian of the cosmic order itself. Stay with us to the end to fully grasp his pivotal role in the balance between life and death. His role is not merely a function, but the embodiment of ancient laws, for Charon is no mere servant of Hades. He is a child of primordial darkness and night themselves. His story begins long before Olympus ever saw the light of day, in an era when the cosmos was just taking shape from primal chaos. Charon is not an Olympian deity, no capricious resident of golden halls, but a true son of the twilight itself. His parents are Erebus, the personification of primordial darkness, and Nyx, the embodiment of night. Imagine, from the bottomless blackness that preceded the sun and stars, from the eternal gloom that enveloped all existence, a being was born, destined to become an inseparable part of the deepest and most unforgiving realm. It is this lineage that illuminates his true nature. Charon doesn't just follow orders, he is a part of the Underworld's primeval, ruthless nature, its unyielding grimness and severity. He is one of the most ancient, virtually immutable pillars of Hades, as if carved from the very stone of eternity. From the dawn of his existence, his fate was sealed. He was assigned an eternal, monotonous, yet incredibly vital duty to ferry the souls of the recently deceased across the watery barriers separating the world of the living from the realm of the dead. He was the one who stood at the threshold between life and death, the last being souls would see before fading into oblivion or finding their final rest. Picture him, a stern, unkempt old man, his face etched with the silent contemplation of countless souls over millennia. His piercing, sometimes described as fiery, eyes can see through any lie, any despair. Dressed in a simple tunic or loincloth, he pilots his decrepit yet indestructible boat, which groans under the weight of its unseen passengers. The oar in his sinewy hand seems as ancient as the world itself. His primary domain, the river of sorrow across which he transports souls, is the Acheron, though he is often mistakenly associated with the Styx, the river of hate that encircles the underworld and upon whose waters the gods swore their oaths. It was the waters of the Acheron that became Charon's eternal route. But not just anyone could cross this river. For Charon, there was no compassion, no exceptions. For a soul to be ferried, the deceased must have received proper funeral rites in the world of the living. And most importantly, they needed to pay his fee, an obol, a small silver or bronze coin that, according to ancient custom, was placed in the mouth or under the tongue of the deceased before burial. This was his only wage, his eternal toll for passage. If the dead had no coin, or if their body was not properly buried, their soul was condemned to the most terrible of fates. For 100 years, it was doomed to wander the cold, misty shores of the Acheron, unable to enter the underworld. A century of despair, of aimless waiting, watching as other souls crossed the river while their own hope slowly faded. Charon was implacable. Pleas, tears, desperate cries, nothing could move him. He was the pure embodiment of order, the guardian of Hades' rules, which could not be broken. He didn't just transport souls, he was the border itself, ensuring the sanctity of the laws between life and death. This is precisely why his boat never waited idly by the shore. Every spot on it was earned, every soul permitted only after complying with the strictest of rules. In the world of the living, long before the final breath left the body, an unseen yet vital ritual began the preparation for this final journey. For without proper funeral rites, without a farewell to the mortal world, a soul was doomed. Its path was cut short before it even began, trapped between two worlds. The ancient Greeks believed the mortal world was obligated to send off its departed with honor, to wash the body, wrap it in a shroud, and perform ritual offerings and lamentations, so the soul could appear before Charon without shame and become part of the great cycle of life and death. This was not just a tribute to the deceased, but a critical step for their eternal peace, an act of freeing the soul from its earthly bonds. But even that was not enough. The ultimate pass, the silent key to the realm of the dead, was the Obol, a tiny bronze or silver coin. This was not merely a payment, but a sacred rite woven into the very fabric of the transition, with roots stretching back into the depths of time. By custom, it was placed in the mouth or under the tongue of the deceased, as if sealing their fate, bestowing upon them a final, most precious gift from the living. This small coin was the last thing that connected the departed to the world of the living, and the first thing that opened the gates to the realm of Hades. The Obol was Charon's fee, not for his personal enrichment, but as confirmation that the soul had undergone all necessary rituals, that it was ready and had the right to cross. It was a visa to the afterlife, without which any plea was just empty noise. And woe to those who arrived without this final tribute, without this symbol of completion. Woe to the souls whose bodies were left unburied, forgotten, or committed to the earth without due reverence, their names erased from the memory of the living, their souls condemned to oblivion. For them, there was no passage across the Acheron, this river of sorrow, which was believed to carry the waters of grief, washing the shores of despair. Nor was there a path for them across the Styx, which, as the river of hate, completely encircled the Underworld, forming its impenetrable border. Their fate was horrific, an eternal wandering along the muddy banks, an endless limbo where neither life nor death could claim them. Imagine hundreds, thousands of ghostly figures, fragments of souls, trapped in the eternal twilight. Their earthly bodies had long since turned to dust, but their ethereal forms persisted in agonizing uncertainty. For 100 years, a seemingly endless century, they were forced to drift in the misty haze, calling out in vain to the indifferent Charon. They watched as others, more fortunate, who had paid their fare, departed toward their eternal rest, dissolving in the distance into the unknown depths of Hades. Each departing boat was a fresh blow, a new reminder of their infinite curse. Their cries, their moans, dissolved into the perpetual gloom, never reaching the ears of the implacable ferryman. Charon, son of darkness Erebus and night Nyx, was one of the most ancient and unchanging deities of the underworld, personifying its grim yet orderly nature. His eternal duty was not a privilege, but a burden he bore with unswerving strictness. The eternal ferryman, whose appearance was as ancient and immutable as the underworld itself, remained steadfast. A stern, disheveled old man with piercing eyes, often clad in a simple tunic or loincloth, he guided his weathered boat without a hint of hesitation, without a shadow of compassion in his dark eyes. He was the embodiment of order, not sympathy, the guardian of Hades' rules, which could not be broken. His decrepit boat never took on stowaways. He was not an executioner, but he was no savior either. He was simply a rule made manifest, or rather, made into a dim shade. Again and again, he would push off from the shore, leaving behind the endless queue of those who could not pay for their final journey. Their fate was a grim reminder that even after death, rules remain rules, and the price for breaking them is an eternity. For in the realm of Hades, there was no place for chaos, and to cross the border required not only death, but preparation for it. The final obol was not just a payment, it was a symbol of completion, a sign that the mortal world had released the soul, and the soul had released the mortal world. Only when these ancient conditions were met did the doors of Hades open, allowing the soul to pass on to its eternal home, to its ancestors, into the realm of the dead, where peace could finally be found. But before finding that peace, the soul had to face the final, most severe guardian of the border, Charon. Do not expect this ferryman of souls to welcome you warmly or express any sympathy. This is the son of primordial darkness, Erebus, and all-encompassing night, Nyx, a deity so ancient and unchanging that his very nature has merged with the grim essence of the underworld. He is the personification of the inexorable, dispassionate boundary between life and death, the embodiment of the absolute order that reigns in the domain of Hades. Picture him, a figure as if carved from the stone of age-old suffering and indifference. A harsh old man, his face deeply lined, not so much from the years, but from the burden of his eternal, monotonous work. His hair and beard, tangled and unkempt, resemble withered leaves clinging to the dampness of the afterlife. But the most memorable feature of his appearance is his eyes. Piercing, burning with a cold, inextinguishable fire, they seem to absorb all the darkness of the underworld, reflecting not a drop of emotion, not a shadow of compassion. In them, there is neither malice nor pity, only absolute, impartial judgment. Charon is always dressed simply, sometimes in just a ragged tunic or loincloth, as if to show that here, on the threshold of eternity, all earthly riches and statuses are meaningless. And there he is, leaning on a long pole, slowly pushing his decrepit, creaking boat. This is no vessel for great voyages, but rather a wreck of old wood, miraculously afloat, seemingly woven from shadows and oblivion itself. The boat waits on the bank of the Acheron, the river of sorrow. Yes, it is the Acheron, not the Styx, as many mistakenly believe, that is Charon's primary place of service. The Styx, the river of hate, encircles the entire underworld, a place where the gods made their unbreakable vows. But it is the Acheron that is the final watery barrier that souls must cross on their way to Hades. Charon is not just a ferryman. He is the law incarnate. His duties are absolute, and he adheres to them with unwavering strictness. Pleas, tears, despair, all are meaningless before his impassive face. He cares not who you were in life, king or beggar, hero or villain. The only thing that matters is the observance of rituals and the presence of that single coin. No obol under your tongue, no proper funeral rites. Then your soul is doomed. 100 years of endless wandering along the cold, lifeless banks of the Acheron, such is the sentence. 100 years of gazing at the gates of Hades that will never open for you. 100 years of yearning for a peace that will forever be out of reach. This is not Charon's punishment. It is simply a strict adherence to the rules of the realm of the dead, where there are no exceptions for ordinary souls. It is his relentless, impervious nature that makes Charon such a powerful symbol of the inevitability of death. He is the final barrier, after which there is no turning back. Only a few, the greatest heroes, or those with direct divine patronage, could break this order. Remember Heracles, who forced Charon to ferry him across by sheer strength, for which the ferryman, according to legend, was punished by Hades himself. Or Orpheus, whose divine music and song managed for the first time in millennia to thaw the ice in Charon's heart and allow him to pass. Or Aeneas, who, guided by the prophetess Sibyl, presented Charon with the golden bow, a sacred gift from Persephone herself. But these rare exceptions only prove the rule. For the overwhelming majority of souls, Charon was and remains that stern, silent guardian whose inflexibility is the guarantor of order and balance in the realm of the dead. He is not a judge, but the enforcer of the sentence. He is not a curse, but an inevitable and necessary part of the great cycle. His weathered boat is not just a means of transport, but the final frontier, beyond which earthly life is left behind forever, and only eternity stretches ahead. But what is this eternity? Where does it lie? And what boundaries separate it from the world of the living? The underworld, the realm of Hades, is not just a vast, dim void as many might imagine. It is a complex space crisscrossed by mighty, symbolic rivers, each with its own unique meaning and role in the great cycle of life and death. And to fully understand the true, multifaceted role of Charon, we must bring clarity to his workplace, for there are almost as many misconceptions surrounding the rivers of the underworld as there are about the mysterious ferryman himself. Often, when Charon is mentioned, our minds instantly conjure the image of a weathered ferryman gliding across the waters of the Styx, the mythical river said to encircle the entire realm of the dead. However, this is one of the most deeply rooted and common misconceptions. Although the Styx is mentioned in the context of the crossing in extremely rare and often later tales, in the vast majority of ancient sources and classical Greek myths, Charon's primary and unchanging place of work was an entirely different river, the Acheron. It was the Acheron, the river of sorrow, that served as the direct and only path to the grim gates of Hades. Its waters, thick and slow like a stream of unshed tears, were the final frontier that every soul leaving the world of the living had to cross. For the soul, this was the literal and inevitable path to its final resting place, be it the bliss of Elysium, the punishment of Tartarus, or the eternal wandering in the asphodel meadows. From this path, once the prow of Charon's boat touched the opposite shore, there was no return. Charon, as ancient as the darkness Erebus and night Nyx who birthed him, was the eternal, tireless guardian and enforcer of this passage across the Acheron. His weathered skiff, as if hewn from eternity, glided ceaselessly over these gloomy waters, admitting not a single soul that did not meet the strict, immutable rules of the afterlife. He was the key that unlocked the way, but only for those who followed the rules. And what of the Styx? This river of hate does not merely traverse the realm of the dead. It is said to encircle the entire underworld with 9 winding coils, like a colossal, impassable fortress wall. The Styx is not so much a path for souls as it is the embodiment of the ultimate boundary, of inviolable law and sacred space. It was upon its dark, churning waters that the Olympian gods swore their unbreakable oaths. Not one of these promises, made over the deep heart of the Styx, could be broken. An oath breaker would face a severe, punitive punishment capable of stripping even a mighty god of his divine power for many years. The Styx was the absolute embodiment of divine order and the inescapability of fate. Thus, these rivers, the Acheron and the Styx, are far more than just geographical features in the grim, otherworldly landscape of Hades. They are the living embodiment of cosmic order, unbreachable, insurmountable borders that forever separate the worlds of the living and the dead. They ensure the absolute and unbending justice of the laws of the afterlife. To cross the Acheron means to leave earthly life, its joys and sorrows, behind forever, definitively entering a new, eternal reality. And it is here, at these fateful junctures, that Charon appears before us not as a sullen boatman, but as a strict, utterly implacable guardian, a faithful executor of the great, unbreakable order. His sacred duty is to ensure that only those who have received proper funeral rites in the world of the living, and can pay the required obol, a small coin typically placed in the mouth of the deceased before burial, can overcome these watery barriers and continue their journey. Souls deprived of the final rite or the coin for the ferryman are condemned to a horrific, eternal wandering. For hundreds of years, they drift along the dim, cold banks of the Acheron, like shades denied peace, unable to cross its waters, unable to find sanctuary in either the world of the living or the realm of the dead. Their fate is the most vivid and ominous proof of how unshakable the rules established by the mighty river boundaries and their relentless servant, Charon, truly are. Even the greatest heroes, daredevils who attempted to enter the underworld while still alive, faced this inflexibility. Heracles, for example, had to force Charon to ferry him across, and for this, according to some versions, Charon himself was punished by Hades, which only underscores his unwavering adherence to the rules. Orpheus managed to soften his heart not with force, but with divine, enchanting music and song that literally touched the ancient ferryman's soul. And Aeneas, he was granted passage only by the golden bow, a sacred gift from Persephone herself, demonstrating that even for chosen mortals, crossing these waters required a special, divine blessing bestowed from above. These rivers, with their eternal and unchanging currents, serve not merely as part of the scenery, but as a powerful, ominous reminder. In the realm of Hades, a strict, unbending order reigns, and it is never broken. And Charon is its faithful and impartial servant, ensuring this eternal, terrifying equilibrium. Even in the realm of Hades, where immutable laws reign, there are exceptions. Very rarely, there were mortals who not only dared to look the ancient ferryman in the eye, but to cross the forbidden threshold of the Acheron and then return to the world of the living. These were not ordinary people, doomed to wander for a century without an obol or proper burial. No, these were legends, heroes who challenged death itself. And each time this happened, Charon himself, the son of grim Erebus and Nyx, the very personification of eternal darkness, was forced to break his millennial-old vows. The first to experience Charon's unyielding will firsthand and survive was Heracles. As part of his final, 12th labor, he had to descend into the underworld to retrieve the fearsome Cerberus. Imagine, the mighty demigod, his gaze burning with resolve, stands on the shore of the Acheron. Before him is the decrepit boat and its grim pilot. Charon, with his severe face, deep-set eyes, and rough-hewn tunic, immediately refused. He was implacable. His duty was to ferry the souls of the dead who had received their rights and paid their fee, not the living, even if they were sons of Zeus. But Heracles did not take no for an answer. The embodiment of primal strength, he literally forced the ancient ferryman to take him aboard. Whether through threats to smash the skiff to pieces or by direct coercion, Charon, albeit with the greatest reluctance, complied. He ferried Heracles across the murky waters of the Acheron. However, this act of insubordination did not go unpunished. Hades, the lord of the underworld, was furious. As punishment for allowing a living mortal to set foot in his boat, Charon was bound in chains for an entire year. This episode not only demonstrates the colossal power of Heracles, but also underscores the absolute hierarchy of power in the realm of the dead. Even Charon, ancient and eternal, was not above his master. If Heracles used force, then Orpheus, the greatest of all singers and musicians, chose a different path, the path of art. His tragic love for the nymph Eurydice led him to the banks of the Acheron, where he resolved to do the impossible, to tear her from the clutches of death. Appearing before Charon, he received the usual stern no, but Orpheus did not threaten or try to coerce him. Instead, he raised his lyre and sang of his boundless love, of the pain of his loss, of the injustice of fate. His music, his voice, was so piercing, so perfect, that even the lifeless stones of the underworld seemed to soften. The heart of Charon, which had remained immune to any plea for millennia, stirred for the first time. The grim old man, who had seen millions of souls cross the river of sorrow, froze. Streams of tears, unseen on his face since the dawn of time, rolled down his weathered cheeks. Mesmerized by the sounds of the lyre, even the tormented souls condemned to wander the banks forever found a moment of peace. Cerberus, the ever-watchful guardian, lay down and slept. Charon could not refuse. Yielding to the power of pure beauty and profound suffering, he silently motioned Orpheus into his boat. Art, it turned out, possessed a power capable of placating death itself, of opening doors that had seemed sealed shut forever. And finally, there was Aeneas. His journey to the underworld was not an act of desperation or coercion, but the fulfillment of a divine will, destined for him to found the great city of Rome. Guided by the prophetess Sibyl, Aeneas arrived at the Acheron not with strength or song, but with something far more significant, the golden bow. This was a sacred gift received from the prophetess, who in turn had received it from Persephone, the queen of the underworld. Upon seeing the gleaming bow, Charon immediately recognized the sign of his mistress. He could not resist. This golden symbol was irrefutable proof of divine permission, a pass issued by the ruler of the realm of the dead herself. Unlike Heracles, who had to use brute force, and Orpheus, who conquered with music, Aeneas faced no resistance. Charon, acknowledging the authority of Persephone, silently pushed off from the shore, ferrying the living mortal who dared to enter his domain with the blessing of the gods. This case was unique in that there was no breaking of the rules, but rather their highest, divine exception. These three stories of Heracles, Orpheus, and Aeneas are rare exceptions that only confirm the inviolability of Charon's rules and the absolute power of Hades. They show just how insurmountable and implacable Charon is to ordinary souls. For him, pleas, titles, or wealth mean nothing, only the coin and proper funeral rites. He, the ancient son of darkness and night, was and remains the merciless guardian of the boundary between worlds, ensuring that no one, except those destined or permitted by divine will itself, can cross the river of sorrow. His decrepit boat is not just a means of transportation, but the final, uncrossable line separating the world of the living from eternal rest or eternal wandering in the realm of Hades. It is in this role not just as a ferryman, but as a sleepless guardian of the very border between being and nothingness that the true depth of Charon's significance lies. The son of darkness, Erebus, and night, Nyx, Charon was one of the most ancient and unchanging deities of the Underworld, personifying its grim, inexorable nature. He doesn't just pilot a boat. He is the final barrier, the living embodiment of the order within Hades' realm, ensuring that only those who are worthy and have followed all the rules may enter the abode of the dead. Without him, without his strict oversight, the line between the worlds would blur and chaos would ensue. His duty is not mere routine, it is a sacred, eternal charge. Imagine, on each bank of the river Acheron, the river of sorrow, countless souls await their turn. But only a few will step onto his weathered skiff. Why? Because Charon is not a taxi driver who can be bribed or persuaded. He is the guardian of the rules dictated by Hades himself. His oar will not move if a soul does not bring the ancient tribute, the Obol, a small coin traditionally placed in the mouth or under the tongue of the deceased before burial. This is not the whim of a sullen old man. It is an unshakable law, a part of the cosmic balance. And even this coin is not enough if the deceased's body did not receive proper funeral rites in the world of the living. Without burial, without payment, the soul is forever condemned to wander these gloomy shores. Thousands of restless spirits are doomed for centuries, a full 100 years. To wait before being allowed to cross if the ancient ritual was not observed or the coin was not paid. Charon sees them, hears their silent pleas, but remains unmoved. His piercing eyes, his stern face, they are a reflection of the implacability of fate. He is relentless, incorruptible, impervious to pleas, to tears, to promises. Charon is the embodiment of the Underworld's merciless justice, his function critically vital to maintaining its unshakable order. He serves as a filter, cutting off those who failed to follow the rules of the game of life and death. Only a few, the chosen, endowed with extraordinary power or divine grace, were able to force or convince Charon to break his eternal duty. Heracles, whose demigod strength could move mountains and tame even Cerberus, forced him to ferry him across, though it is said Charon was punished by Hades for it. Orpheus, whose voice and lyre could tame wild beasts and melt hearts, pacified the grim ferryman with his divine music on his quest for Eurydice. And Aeneas, guided by divine will and protected by the prophetess Sibyl, presented Charon with the sacred golden bow, a gift from Persephone herself, a pass that even the guardian of Hades could not deny. But these exceptions only prove the rule. In his ordinary, eternal work, Charon makes no exceptions. He is the final barrier, ensuring that only those who are truly ready, peacefully or in resignation, may enter the Underworld. This makes him not just a ferryman, but an essential element of the cosmic balance between life and death, guaranteeing that the boundaries between worlds remain clear and inviolable. Charon is not just a grim figure from myth, he is a fundamental pillar of the cosmos, ensuring order where its absence would lead to absolute chaos. Charon is not just a grim figure from myth, but a fundamental pillar of the cosmos, the implacable guardian of the very border between being and nothingness. is ancient or carries not just souls, but the very order of the Great Transition, where earthly rules give way to cosmic ones, and the price of peace is our readiness. He is the final barrier, ensuring that even in death, there are unbreakable laws. What if our life is just a long preparation for this final journey, and every choice we make is the obol that determines our eternal wandering or our final peace? Are we prepared to pay that price? If this story has made you think about boundaries and balance, share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel to continue exploring the mysteries of the universe with us, and support this video with a like.